As the internet's #1 shipping whore for Stolitz, I wanted full moon. No, I needed full moon. I've devoted weeks writing, talking, and thinking about Stolas and Blitz and just the mess they call a relationship and all the flaws they have that keeps them in it. I wanted this episode so badly, and I got it. And what I got was Cherubs Part 2. Now, I'm only being a little bit dramatic, but after that ending, I think I'm allowed to be that just a little bit, as this episode is really solid, with some baffling choices. An enjoyable experience, some would say, and I am one of them. But the way my brain is spinning, thinking of all the ways they could have doubled down on some things while cutting others, my final take on that scene is not exactly what you'd expect. As after half a season of build-up, it finally happened. And my reaction is less feels and more Stolas. You massive hypocrite. The scene is good. I may be digging too much into what's going on here. I have complicated feelings about what happened, and I may be digging just too much into what's going on here. But that's what I do every time I talk about these two idiots. So let's get into it. Now, we'll jump along into my general thoughts here, but to make this clear, I might be a little biased in just all disregard. I think Full Moon is very fun, but there might be an element of me just expecting more focus on Stolas versus what we actually got. Not to mention that I think the Cherubs are kinda mid, so them being here for as much as they are is an choice to me. But I'll try and give this episode its flowers while trying to keep in check that this might be a me thing. Before that, let me get this one rant out of my soul. Cherubs and the Stolitz plots feels like they are from two different episodes. I do not think it's impossible to have a story about the Cherubs teaming with D.H.O.R.K and trying to kill the imps, while Stolas is confessing to Blitz. But in my opinion, the Cherub sections of this episode, they do feel like filler, and don't provide that much of a meaningful addition to what should be the A-plot and focus of this story. They are bringing the jokes and the actions for sure, but emotionally I don't feel like there's any real resonance here. I don't really think, okay, I can see the thematic ideas that connects the Cherubs to Stolitz and the breakup. None of it's there. This is kind of just shenanigans and set up for something else that's gonna happen later, in which for how much they have built up to Stolitz, to this one conversation, this entire season, mind you, it is weird that we are sharing time with something that feels just so superfluous to what's been built up. If there was a thematic idea that was being reflected in the Cherubs, like, oh, they're forcing themselves to be this, that they're acting in a similar way to Stolas or Blitz, that they're pushing people away, that they're not letting people communicate, just something to create a through line that can connect the two together besides Blitz going shopping, I could be down for it. I've done it before with the Barbie wire plot in Unhappy Campers, where, yeah, narratively it kind of makes sense when it's like, oh, the person Moxie spent all this time looking for was Barbie's drug supplier, but it also feels very duct tape on. It's only saving me because there is a thematic connection between Barbie wire and Blitz and Millie and Moxie. And now the men are having this reaction to the girls carving out space for themselves, and even though I don't love the episode, I think that is enough for me to no longer say, okay, these two belong together. Meanwhile, Cherubs, it's kind of just good times. And the fact that they are the main focus of most of this episode, with the exception of the first 3 minutes and the last 5, it's a choice that is a little sussy to me. I think in execution, it's fun. But I think I would have happier if these two things had just been their own episodes, giving us more time to focus on Stoltz or have the Cherubs be here and have it feel relevant to the juicier stuff going on. Helluva has always thrived on being a comedy mixed with emotional moments, but this is just a case where I don't think the two plots connected enough to make it feel worth it. On their own, they're fine. But I'm not gonna lie that most of the time we spent with the Cherubs felt like a stocking stuffer. It's here to fill time. It's good, but it is what it is. Which, okay, need to get that out of my soul. Let's talk about what actually happened. Now, we opened this thing up on a Stolitz duet that we have honestly been waiting for, and it's delivered exactly how you'd expect. And honestly, worthy of them, as they are seen together separately. Stolas is jumping between romanticized optimism to anxiety-filled terror about tonight. He's finally ending the deal and giving Blitz an out for their relationship. And on the other side of things, Blitz is doing what he does best, ignoring the problem, swinging his dick around bragging about what he'll do with it later, and acting like everything is fine. And I love the idea that's for Stolas, this is the night that'll change everything, while Blitz thinks that things are finally getting back to normal after months of Stolas avoiding him. I think the juxtaposition is really good, with us seeing exactly where the two of them are at, what they expect, and it's all delivered via a catchy tune.
Are we okay? Can't really say. I'm getting by avoiding his question.
Rogers is doing a swell job. Pinkham is also doing a great job here. The gags, the visuals, it's all on point. We even got the symbolism of the crystal being sandwiched between the books they played with as kids. Stakes are set, feelings are loaded, but never mind that.
I'm at underwear level, you know, and that guy clearly hadn't showered today.
Again, the Cherubs are a fun side adventure, but to view this side plot in isolation, overlooking the fact that Cleus's voice does get grating to me after a while, I think their shenanigans are funny as fuck.
Sure hope this glass doesn't break.
Yeah, the problem isn't with them, it's where they're placed. We finally are checking in with these losers who got kicked out of heaven, and we finally see what that means for them. It means they suck, with them having to pull cons just to feed themselves. These almighty angels have been reduced to pickpockets, with Cletus and Key trying to justify their actions as not just surviving, but they're actually doing good things by pulling these scams, by tricking people into doing other good things. Therefore, it's okay for them to steal, despite the fact that they don't know what gets people into heaven, and that the man accidentally stopped the stroller. These idiots have fallen far, with poor Colin being the only one not resting on some high horse shit to realize just how far they've fallen. But then they get jumped by D.H.O.R.K and they lie into forming an alliance with them. D.H.O.R.K is also another group of villains that I'm just okay on. Better visual gag machines than characters I adore. But since their last appearance, they've really moved up in the world. They prove that hell exists, so the government decided to give them more money than God. With this section giving probably two of the best jokes in the episode, which is just the furry Luna suit and the children's crusade. These slayed me, and of course she keeps him on a leash. Though I do wonder what we'll see these two groups doing together in the future, as we know from the trailer that they're gonna just attack again, but after Power Armor, I'm curious to see just how they'll raise the ante as what do you do after this? Bring a nuke? Personally though, I am mostly just waiting for Colin to tell his friends to fuck off after treating him badly for what feels like just breathing. Colin is the only semi-nice person here, even if he is just always an accessory to terrible things happening. He's the only one who feels like he could legitimately have a case of going to heaven. And I think he is definitely going to stand up for himself, and I'm curious to see what's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back and give him a spine. Though thinking of smaller things that trigger a much bigger reaction, Luna. She spoke.
Oh shit, he's getting bored of you.
Now, personal taste, I think Luna making the stray comment that sends Blitz into a spiral didn't hit for me. It happened, we watched Blitz go from top of the world, like, yeah, he's bearing his feelings, but he seems actually excited to get his freak on with Stolas, to him then just being terrified that Stolas is gonna get bored of him. It's happening because of a comment, and while I can't chalk this up to like, oh, that's something that actually happens in real life, my honest reaction here, and my current one now, is that this feels like the writers just putting their thumbs on the scale. It's an external source to say something to Blitz to really just tip him over the edge, when with how he works, it's how he always feels like he needs to do things to justify his existence and his value to others. I think you can justify Blitz spiraling with a stiff breeze, or just have him say, I got this, only to smash cut to him saying, I don't got this. It did lead to a funny bit with Luna disappearing, but it does feel like the story putting an idea in his head just so we can have the shopping montage that will also lead us to the Cherubs being here. And honestly, it's fine.
What kind of torturing are we looking to do?
Them being creeped out by the sex toys is funny enough, but I do think the real bits of interest is just how little the Cherubs know about hell, how they keep assuming the absolute worst of everything Blitz does. They're kinda mid at fighting. All this just makes me wonder is what their actual activities were for heaven. Were they really just the angels that got sent to give pep talks? Do they really know anything about hell, or are they just running on what they've been told? They feel like they are incredibly out of their depth, and I think that works for them, even as they're stalking a very relaxed Blitz who just, he's looking for some spice. That's all this is. And the Cherubs are looking to get jumped. Okay, this fight is dope, but I do question if the rest of it would actually stalk Blitz as he's trying to find toys for Stolas. It's like they know Blitz is a demonic disaster, but that frustration is always peppered in with complete faith in him as a leader of Imp, but it's never getting a hint that they think he's fumbling the Stolas situation just in the past. So them following him just make sure he doesn't ruin their meal ticket by just watching, I guess, feels a little hand-wavy. I know we want to justify them being here for the fight, but I do question if they would actually be doing this and if they would actually actually be showing up right now. I'm happy they're here, as Imp hands the Cherubs their ass, and it's great seeing that for all the advantages the power armor gives them, the more experienced fighters are able to find the weak points, break them, and use those scraps to break the Cherubs' new toys. It's a good fight, tons of great action, all the animators deserve all the respect for this, as visually, Helluva Boss has never looked better. Also, I gotta appreciate just how many of the little gags and quirks they keep reincorporating throughout the story. Millie is getting leg injuries, because of course she does. Moxie is being almost cool till he gets undercut, because of course he is. And Luna is getting fan service, because of course she is. But then the Cherubs get beat, and Luna blows up a building so the M&Ms can get their freak on. The distraction is over, and we finally get into Stolitz, and boy, do I have opinions.
Passionate fornication.
Later.
Your first instinct is that it's always about sex.
So I filmed my actual reaction to this episode, link in the description, made a second channel, The Secret Sexier Chorus. I keep forgetting to put things on this, but I figured this was as good time as any, and go and subscribe to see what I do with that channel, because I swear I will do things. But this fucking finale, what can I say that won't get me in trouble? Now, I'm gonna keep this brief as I'm gonna do a whole shipping analysis on this whole vibe we got going on. The thumbnail I came up with is gonna be disgusting. I think for now, this scene, in a word, for me, frustrating. And I think that's a good thing, but it could also turn out to be very bad later on. Let me explain.
I didn't realize you think so low of me.
I think this scene could be used as an example for how confessing your love doesn't make all your problems just go away. As for all the micro self-improvement we've seen, for as much as we wanted this confession, the truth of the matter is that neither of them have fixed the underlying personal issues that have kept them here to begin with. Blitz still hates himself, he is convinced that he is completely unlovable, he intuitively believes that Stolitz is just creating some weird foreplay than he has actual feelings for him. Which, while I think I would have liked showing Blitz throw up the defense mechanism, just show it be really like, oh shit, I can't do this, he just puts the mask on. I also come around to think that him so casually doing it, just it's his default to, oh, kinky, that probably makes it even more devastating. Blitz really showed up thinking he needed to prove his worth, laying it on thick. Stolas nearly caves, but then, unlike when they first met, he sticks to his guns and keeps things mostly on track, which he does remarkably well, a little too well. As if you thought Stolas was gonna mess us up via a miscommunication situation, no. He does something else, but he is able to have Blitz sit down and tell him the truth, though not before making him feel like he's about to get dumped.
I need this book, please. I need this book, Stolas. I will do anything.
Bro, why would you start the conversation like that? But Stolas, he confesses. Hope is at an all-time high, only for him to forget the crucial fact that he is in love with an idiot.
Okay, alright, you're fucking with me.
Watch this, Lise. You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half.
Now, I love everything up to here as it is a clear demonstration of Blitz's issues as a communicator. Blitz is teetering between overcompensation and desperation, but for all the issues he has, and what we see how he messes up right here, what happens with Stolas is worse.
Hold on now, Stolas. What the fuck?
I have my answer, Blitz.
Stolas, to me, is a massive fucking hypocrite. Sympathy where it's due, he is on the verge of crying through the entire time he does this, but I've literally never been more on Blitz's side than this entire breakup. Blitz didn't understand that Stolas was being serious, with Stolas thinking that Blitz could take what I said as a joke as his answer, which makes sense for how nervous we saw him in the morning. But here's the thing, Blitz didn't tell a single lie.
Stolas, you spring this feelings bullshit on me? Are you fucking kidding?
Stolas, intentionally or not, kept taking advantage of Blitz in moments where he didn't have to. From calling Blitz about making a deal when he knew Blitz was under duress. It was Stolas' misguided attempts to match Blitz's perceived energy that made things primarily about sex. He also hid his face in shame when he got caught out for banging Blitz, with his texts afterwards being mostly just excuses, not fully accepting responsibility for what happened and trying to move forward. So when Stolas is so aghast at Blitz making things about sex, I really have to look at Stolas and use this clip.
Come on. You know why.
Stolas, in the main issue that is just really highlighted by the entire scene, has a massive issue with confirmation bias, where he'll often only notice the things that confirm what he already believes. That was how he's able to delude himself to think that Blitz was happy for as long as he did. And as soon as things start going south here, he falls straight back into those habits, with him still showing other issues before where, yeah, he does sit down and get his feelings out, but he's still completely controlling the situation. He's still unintentionally making Blitz feel insecure about his status with him and making him feel less less than. He doesn't open up with saying, Blitz, I think so highly of you. I think you're so amazing. He starts with, hey, I need my shit back. I know that's your whole thing, but hold on, I actually have a good reason that maybe works out for both of us. And then when he thinks he has his answer, he proceeds to ignore all Blitz's attempts to actually talk about what just happened, and only to then pretty much lean into every behavior Blitz accused him of. Blitz's demand that they talk, that he's not going to be brushed aside, only for Stolas to completely brush him aside and to put him outside of his house. Mr. Pushes people away isn't running, but instead all Stolas got out of everything Blitz said is, oh, you think so little of me? Like, my guy, you're not listening. Take a breath, talk this out. But I think the thing that Stolitz does that really annoys the shit out of me and makes me call him a hypocrite is that for as much as he bemoaned how much of a monster he'd be if he was forcing Blitz to bang him, stripping him of his ability to choose, Stolitz does nothing but rip Blitz's choice away from him this entire situation. Stolitz's whole plan was to let Blitz choose for himself to be with him or leave. Blitz misunderstands, which is heartbreaking, sad. It sucks what happened, but you understand why it did. But when Blitz actually tries to talk about this, Stolas walks out of the room, only hearing the parts that he already believes, then throwing Blitz out of his house. For a guy who wanted Blitz to choose for himself, who said Blitz thought little of him for thinking he was some rich asshole who would dismiss Blitz, Stolas sure did exactly that, which annoys the shit out of me. So this scene, it never really got me to choke up. I was never in the feels, despite the actors giving a 10 out of 10 performance. Like, Jesus Christ, they are all so good. Instead, most of my focus is on Stolas, who I am begging and screaming to just listen, which, if that's the point, perfect. If this is the flaw that they really want to address, I can totally dig that. I love it if they be able to highlight both of the flaws of these characters and really have them learn and grow from it. This is basically the reverse of what happened last time at Aussies, except this is the time Blitz is left standing outside of the house. However, this whole season has been a masterclass in softening all of Stolas' edges, to make him just a constant victim of circumstance who was never meant to harm a fly. So if from here this story turns to primarily just being about Blitz owning up to his behavior and his intimacy issues, and just ignoring Stolas continually abusing a power imbalance that, if unintentionally, then I'm going to lose my mind. These two are both massively flawed people who got screwed over by life and acquired some bad coping mechanisms along the way. While I think this scene is brilliant if it's highlighting the issues in Stolas, if that is the intention, in practice and gauging some of the reactions I've seen, people seem to be missing that, or babying Stolas because Bryce is just crushing it too hard. I think hindsight could destroy this scene for me, and I am very worried to see what happens. Overall, I enjoyed this episode, even if the cherubs don't justify being in this episode. I'm nervous to see how things are gonna play out for Stolitz for writing reasons more than shipping ones. I'll make a longer video talking about them soon, but this episode, it's just complicated for me. We'll see how things pan out. Check out my second channel. Check out this one if you haven't already. Things aren't gonna get any easier anytime soon, so let's see how things go.